Good evening and welcome to the Tuxedo Local Development Corporation meeting on February 15th, 2023. I'd like to open this meeting at 6:32. On our agenda this evening, we have the approval of the minutes from the January 17th meeting, the review of the amended bylaws and compensation policy, a review of the remote meeting policy, and then we need to set a public hearing date, then review of Hamlet revitalization applications, and the ever popular adjournment, which will probably be at least an hour down the road, probably more. So fasten your seatbelts. Let's start with the approval of the January 17th meeting minutes. I'll just I think the revitalization guidelines, those changes were important. Recommended revisions were the 25% of awarded grant funds will be advanced to the award project upon execution of the grant agreement. An additional 25% of the award funds would be advanced when the project is 50% completed. The remaining award grant funds will be dispersed upon completion of the project and submittal of final invoices. Is that everyone's recollection?
Yeah, so what we're saying is that they're gonna get 50% of the funds by the time it's 50% complete, but then they have to pay out of their own funding for the other 50%?
Yeah, in the guidelines for the reimbursement, I agree with what you said, Michelle, is what I think we want, but it doesn't really explicitly say that. It says fund the second reimbursement, and it doesn't specify how much that is, will be upon 50% completion, but it doesn't say what that second reimbursement is. This is saying 25. I thought we said 25, 50, 25.
Thought we did.
But it doesn't really explicitly say that in the guidelines.
Yeah, because it just goes back to what I've been trying to, in my mind, get clear is that an applicant then has to not only match the funding, but has to pay more than that in order to get reimbursed.
Yeah, it's on page 2, what I was referring to.
Yeah.
Grant funds will be paid in 3 disbursements. The first equal to 25% of the total grant award, that's clear. The second shall be made upon completion of 50% of the project work, but it doesn't say how much that second disbursement is.
I think it'll vary per project. Remember, they're gonna have a grant agreement that'll lay out exactly how much they're getting when. These are just general guidelines.
Yeah, but shouldn't
John, what document are you reading?
I'm reading the program guidelines.
Oh, that wasn't
You
distributed
didn't
today.
hand that out.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't get it.
I think that should be spelled out and not for the applicants so they know what to expect when they are planning what they are going to do, what they're going to ask for. I generally like things to be explicit.
So I'm going to read this bullet point again. So 25% of awarded grant funds will be advanced to the awarded project upon execution of the grant agreement. That's period, right?
That's
full stop.
Right.
An additional 25% of the awarded funds will be advanced when the project is 50% complete.
Yeah, I don't have a problem. Is it 25? Is it 50? I'm fine with the 25, but let's say what it is, because The program guidelines doesn't say that.
I'm sorry, I'm a little dense here today, so
I
where's
don't-
the discrepancy?
Yeah, it's saying that though in here.
No, it says upon completion of 50% of the project work, the second disbursement shall be made upon completion of 50% of the project work. It doesn't say what that second disbursement is.
Even though it says here an additional 25%, doesn't say it there, is that what?
It doesn't say it in the guidelines.
Oh, but it says
And is
it
that an
here.
updated version after,
I don't think this has ever been revised after this version. It doesn't have a date or a version on it.
so according to this bullet though, in the minutes, 50% of the funds would have been distributed upon half of the work, right? Is everybody in agreement on
Right.
that? On the bullet that we're looking at here?
Right.
Yeah,
Okay, we're
that's-
all good on that, right? Okay,
Yes.
let's keep reading. The remaining awarded grant funds will be dispersed upon the completion of the project. So,
And submittal of final paid invoices, that's the
And
thing.
it says that.
Yeah,
in here.
right, but I just, to
But it-
finish the sentence, because then that means that they have to then pay all the invoices and then get reimbursed.
And again, to your point, it says presentation of invoices upon the final disbursement. It doesn't say paid invoices. This does.
Right, I thought that's what we had decided, that
Right,
we
well,
had to receipt, submittal of the
It
final
should be paid
invoices.
invoices. It shouldn't just be invoices.
so Rachel, were these,
We
Go
removed the word paid because at the last board meeting, you thought that would be onerous. So now they just have to submit invoices. They don't have to front the money and we'll reimburse half of the invoices
Okay,
because they have to have matching funds.
So the word paid needs to be removed from the minutes.
right, so we're just looking at the minutes as, is that what was finally decided? And then-
Oh, I'm sorry. But in the guidelines, we took out the word paid, I believe.
Okay,
Correct, we did.
You did.
okay, good.
Yeah,
wanted to
just
make
presentation of invoices.
Okay.
And then, John, to your comment, in the guidelines, so that it's consistent with what is in the minutes, just the second disbursement of 25% of the total award will be made upon completion of 50% of the project.
Yes.
We just need to clarify that it's an additional 25%.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
okay, I'll go with the next bullet. Applications will be available on the website. I'm assuming that means submitted applications, not blank applications, or,
No, that's fine. Completed
Yeah.
applications and
Then,
I was on, okay.
fee. I mean, that's maybe implied that to complete it, you have to pay the fee.
No, I was wondering if the second bullet meant, if we got an application, we would post it on our website.
I thought
we don't
that's-
want to do that, do we? I mean, don't we want to post applicants that have been awarded?
That's
I don't
not to show that the applications will be available on the website for folks to download or print off and fill out.
Okay.
Right,
All
right.
right,
Right.
that's clear then.
Okay, to fill it out.
Completed applications should be returned to the office of the town supervisor. Applications will be reviewed beginning February 15th today. Questions regarding the grant application should be posted on the town website along with the answer. So if we receive questions, we would post them. Approved applications will be posted to the
Yeah,
website.
approved, not, not
Okay.
completed.
Then we had some old business. Mr. English stated that starting with fiscal year 2023, we'd like the board members to receive an annual 20,000.
Well,
You see, that's wishful thinking. $2,000 stipend, similar to the stipend received by board members of the Tuxedo Farms LDC. Board members concurred. Ms. Baronello will review and recommend amendments. Upcoming meetings today, 6:30, the annual meeting Thursday, March 9th. I'm sure you all have that tattooed on the back of your hand. Adjournment, okay. Are we ready to approve these minutes?
I just have a question about the applications.
Sure.
Is there any requirement that that be made public?
Yes,
It has to be made public.
everything this board does is public, yes. So
Okay,
the approved applications, your deliberations over the applications, yes. There, I mean, let me back up. Everything that you do is public. I recommend posting your approved applications. You don't have to though, but I would recommend it.
Approved applications, certainly, I guess there's still a question, would we put all applications up or just approved applications?
Just approved.
Okay,
Just
yeah, I don't think until it's approved, you know, somebody might not want that information to
I'm
be.
fine, I just want to make
Right.
sure we're.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, Rachel, you said about deliberations. So deliberations cannot be done in an executive session?
If we're talking about items that would qualify for an executive session, like the financial statements belonging to applicants, something of that nature, but that just deliberation over the applications themselves, I think should be done in public session.
Okay, thank you.
And
I don't have-
Rachel, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, no, please.
When we have to post the completed, or I'm sorry, the awarded applications, we don't have to put in their financial information, correct?
No, we can redact certain things. I mean, the sources and uses of funds, and the project costs and all of that'll be posted, but if there's any financial statements or other sensitive information that could be harmful to the business, we will pull those elements of the application out for you.
Very good. So approval of the minutes. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the minor modification. I think we struck the word paid invoices from the first bullet, correct?
yeah.
Yes.
Do I have a second on the motion to approve?
second.
Seconded by Irene Denaro. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Unanimous. Hello, Greg Boucher.
Hi. So I've been here, but I've been in the cab, so I was video off. But
No worries. We approved the minutes. Now we're at the review of the amended bylaws and compensation policy. I believe what we just read through were the changes, right, Rachel? Those bullets were pretty much what the changes were.
Yes. Yeah.
Do we want to
But
just,
I can specifically call out what we changed in the bylaws if you'd like me to do that.
that would definitely make it helpful so we don't have to read through the whole dang thing.
Sure.
So I
If
believe, please go ahead.
If you turn to section 18 of the bylaws, there are not page numbers, but it
You
is,
want to number our pages together, so if you have a pen, I'll just say the cover.
I'll number them for you in the next.
No worries, but I mean, even just for tonight. You could just start with the cover being one.
For now, it's in Article 3, Section 18. It's on page, not counting your cover page, 1, 2, 3, 4. Your 8th page of your bylaws.
Okay, so that, according to me,
Oh, it's
would
about
have been
compensation.
7, right? So you said section,
18, Article 3, Section 18.
I see.
You're just not stating the exact amount, it just will be decided upon by the board.
Yes, that way you can decide annually what the compensation level will be. We did put the amount of compensation in your compensation and reimbursement and attendance policy, but that policy, as you know, is updated on an annual basis, so we can always change that. But we didn't think that we needed that level of specificity in the bylaws.
So, section, it would be on page 9. So just to reiterate, section 18 addressed the compensation without a determined dollar amount because that's reviewed annually, correct?
Correct.
Okay, next section.
That was it in the bylaws, just that one section.
Okay.
I have a question, Rachel. I had been looking at the 2015 special permit, which discussed the use of funds. And I think I included you in that email. Yeah, back on January 27th. So, oops. Back then, the things having to do with the revitalization fund was Appendix M. And it outlined use of funds. It said, grant funds will be allocated to projects by the LDC board based on the recommendation of the Tuxedo Town Board. And it further goes on to define criteria. Criteria will be set by the Tuxedo Town Board. So that was in the 2015 special permit, which was the special permit in effect before November of this year. So I'm just questioning that, since shouldn't that be in the bylaws?
The bylaws for the most part are consistent and mirror the language in the special permit. We weren't the original drafter of the bylaws, and I'm not sure why that didn't end up in, and I don't believe it's anything we took out. But we can add it to the bylaws. But I guess at the end of the day, is that happening?
Is that what?
Is that happening? Is the town board having any involvement in this process at this point?
Well, I'd say we are, because we have 2 members of the town board on this board.
Right, but the board in itself isn't reviewing applications and making recommendations or setting criteria that then this LDC is looking at.
I'm just trying to remember back in the last time we approved applications of what the involvement of the Tuxedo Town Board was at that time. I mean, that was probably 2019.
2018, 2019. I don't recall any involvement at that time by the town board.
Okay, maybe can we just take another look and dive into that and make
I
sure?
prefer not to, personally.
Well,
I feel like that's why you have 2 members of the town board on this board. Otherwise, it's just redundancy. Then why isn't the town board just dealing with this?
Well,
That's
I
my
think
opinion.
the only thing is that, we kind of changed the focus of the use of funds to include, as far as the criteria goes. We are now saying we're going to use the grant fund for business purposes, which was the purpose of the loan fund. So now that the loan fund is no longer in existence, it just seems to me the town board should have been somehow included approving that change in the use of funds in the criteria section. Because the town board set the criteria, and now this board has changed the criteria.
I don't know that we've changed the criteria, Michelle.
Well, we're saying that we can use funds for equipment purposes and things to establish a business that wouldn't satisfy the original criteria decided by the town board, which was beautification, infrastructure, exterior work.
And this is just my opinion as the attorney here, and I'm happy to let other board members weigh in. I think that the emphasis on the funds is still the original intent of the that was in the special permit. I think you've given yourself some flexibility where there are equipment and interior work that needs to be done that the facade improvements are great and all the beautification, but without certain interior upgrades as well, the facade improvements won't really help the applicants all that much. So I still think the intent is there. I think you've given yourself a little flexibility, but it's not as if you said, we're going to use this grant fund as, people can use this as working capital or anything of that sort. And I think that was the aim of the loan fund, was like a working capital fund.
Okay. I mean, it's just my concern is that interior work may get done and the town could still look the same, which isn't the intent.
Right. And that'll be important as you review applications to make sure that the bulk of the funds requested by the applicant in their proposals to you are largely driven at the beautification of the hamlet. With, if there's some incidental interior work, then at this board's discretion, you can approve that, but it certainly won't be the purpose or exclusive purpose of any award.
Okay, so incidental, I like that word.
Well, I'm not, incidental is a vague word, first of all. Part of the discussion that we had at the last meeting was to give the board discrepancy, that some projects and properties that are still sitting idle might have already done substantial exterior work, but also to consider what's holding up the progress of these projects. I thought we were trying to leave that to the discretion of the board on each application. So the word incidental, I don't know if that actually appears in the bylaws, but I was at the discretion of the board to make those decisions. I'd be happy to find it if you want to look in the bylaws now to see where that's.
No, I'm not referring to any language in the bylaws.
I'm sorry, Rachel, I didn't hear the last thing you said.
I wasn't referring to any language in the bylaws. It was my own interpretation of what the board was talking about doing with some allowable interior work. That was my interpretation of the conversation.
And Rachel, that's how I interpret that discussion also, having the flexibility case by case. If the exterior was already completed and there was some work to do interiorly inside, that we have the discretion to decide as a board.
Yeah, I think we just have to use our judgment. And, from my perspective, I'm not going to approve 75% of the work being internal,
Exactly.
Right, okay,
Right.
good.
There has to be a balance. And I
Right.
think we have to use our judgment
Exactly.
as things
Hopefully
come,
the board's been back.
as things come to the table.
Exactly. Case by case, and that's,
Yeah,
our job
keep-
is to review.
Keeping in mind the big
The
external
big picture,
that
the
we
big
want to.
picture is that when you drive into town, it looks
Exactly.
like this is a town that's alive, not like it looks right now.
Right.
That's the whole purpose of this fund. But, we added this flexibility. Okay. All right,
So we reviewed the amended bylaws and we didn't look at the the policy is as it is embedded in the bylaws. There's a second standalone page for 2023. Is that part of this minute? This agenda item says review of the amended bylaws, which we just did, and the compensation policy I have as a separate page that Julie put in our packet.
Yes, that's a separate policy, separate from the bylaws.
So
States that,
should we approve the bylaws first and then?
Yes,
go to this
please.
document? Okay,
Because it says on the bottom of the cover sheet, approved and adopted 15 February, that's today. So we have to approve this,
right.
yes, you do.
the amended bylaws, which is very little from the last time. Right, Rachel?
Yes, it's just that one change.
Just number 8, section 18.
I'd like to make a motion to accept, to approve the amended bylaws that we just reviewed. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by John Bagno. Any further discussion on those?
That still has to be approved by the town board, or is this it?
Well, that was my question earlier, that
The
back in
compensation.
2015, the town,
The compensation part.
oh, the compensation.
No, bylaw amendments do not require town board approval.
So we can approve our own compensation in effect. It's just like politics. It's great. That's true, Rachel? We can approve that ourselves?
Bylaw amendments and policy amendments, yes, you can approve those.
Okay,
Any further discussion?
I understand now. So.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Now on the compensation policy. I'll read it. The Tuxedo Local Development Corporation Compensation Reimbursement and Attendance Policy. Pursuant to and in accordance with the non-for-profit corporation law of the state of New York, the members of the board of the Tuxedo Local Development Corporation, the LDC, shall serve with an annual salary of $2,000 and be appointed as described in the amended and restated bylaws of the LDC, parentheses, the amended and restated bylaws, close parentheses, but may be reimbursed for reasonable expenses incurred in the performance of LDC duties at the approval of the board. The officers, employees, and agents of the LDC shall serve at the pleasure of the LDC at such compensation levels as may be approved by the board from time to time and may be reimbursed for reasonable expenses incurred in the performance of LDC duties at the approval of the board. The members of the board and officers of the LDC shall be available as required to perform the operations of the LDC and as set forth within the amended and restated bylaws as may be amended, restated, or revised by the board from time to time in accordance with the amended and restated bylaws. Said members and officers of the LDC shall put forth their best efforts to perform their respective duties as outlined in the amended and restated bylaws of the LDC and any other directives of the board relating to same. It says approved and adopted, mentions previous dates, and amended and adopted this on the 15th day of February 2023.
I think that's what we just did, right?
We did the bylaws
But it's in-
specifically.
It's in the bylaws.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna approve this, compensation policy separately because it actually mentions $2,000 where it didn't in the bylaws.
Yeah, a separate motion on the policy is fine.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to accept this policy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Michelle Lindsay. Open for further discussion on town board. Not hearing any further discussion, I'll take a roll call vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that's, motion has passed unanimously. Moving down to the remote meeting policy. Rachel, could you give us just a little background on how this, I'm sure this is based on other agency and state video conferencing guidelines?
Yes. So the open meetings law was amended to allow board members to participate from non-public locations by video conferencing when extraordinary circumstances, and that's a defined term, exist. The policy is based off of the new and amended open meetings law. and best practices that we're recommending to our various LDC clients across the state. The so what it states again is that board members may participate in non-public locations remotely so long as they can be seen and heard if extraordinary circumstances exist. Extraordinary circumstances are defined in paragraph 4 of the policy, with the most specific reasons being the first 4, and then a broad, other significant or unexpected circumstance that prevents the board member from attending in person. So we have some flexibility to allow participation remotely. To note, there must be a quorum in person at the public location. So just like you have it tonight, 4 board members are in person, 1 board member is on video. The board member who's on video will not count toward the quorum, but their vote will count. And lastly, we do have to include in the notice of the meeting if video conferencing will be used. So we would need to know in advance and at the time the notice of the meeting is posted if anyone is going to be participating remotely. Or we can just include language in every meeting notice that the board may use video conferencing for board members to participate. And that way you're always covered in the event there's a last minute situation and a board member needs to participate by video.
I would suggest the latter. Yep.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm recommending that for other clients as well. Just always include the language. So in order to adopt the video conferencing policy, we do need to hold a public hearing in advance of your next meeting. We'll provide the notice for that. And then at the next meeting, you will adopt a resolution and the video conferencing policy. And then going forward, like Greg is participating today, he's not counting for the quorum. And unfortunately, the vote isn't counting either, but in the future, it will.
Didn't you just say a little while ago that Greg's vote would count tonight? Did I hear
No.
that?
Greg's vote does not count tonight.
Yep.
Sorry, Greg.
That's okay. And actually, I hate to say this. I have to leave in 1 minute, but I'll be here next time.
Okay.
My vote counting next time. Hopefully.
Yes. Next meeting.
So Rachel, you said a public hearing in advance of the next meeting. Can we have it at the next meeting? The public hearing?
You may have yes, of course, you could have the public hearing immediately prior to your meeting. You really only need 15 minutes. Hold the public hearing, close it. I haven't had anyone attend yet.
So we can do that on March.
No, right?
Yes.
All right, Gord. Unfortunately, I have to run, but I proxy to you, Ken, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks.
So I'd like to make a motion to set a public hearing to review remote meeting policies. I propose Thursday, March 9th, 2023 at 1 p.m. and then with the annual meeting to follow. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Seconded by Irene Denaro. Any further discussion on that by the town board? Not town board, the LDC board?
Is there any issue holding a public hearing during the day as opposed to at night?
As long as you provide reasonable notice, no.
Okay, just checking.
Any further discussion on that?
No, that's good. I just have a question. Do we actually have to put the address in each time? I know that the village board does that in Tuxedo Park. They say so-and-so will be participating remotely, and they give the actual address.
No, we don't need to do that anymore. The old law, there are 2 ways to have board members participate remotely. Under the old law, you did need to notice the location of the remote board member, and it also had to be a public location, which is why the village is doing it that way. That route is still available to us. But this new law is obviously better because you can do the meeting anywhere and we don't have to notice the remote board member's location.
Super. That's really good.
Yeah.
Any further questions or discussion?
But so number 1 says, any member attending via video conference in a predetermined and noticed public location may count towards a quorum?
That would be, yeah, so that's the old law,
The
right?
old-
So if you need a
okay.
board member to count towards quorum, then we do need you in a public location.
Oh, we still need to be in a public location. Okay.
Right, yeah, so if you're at home or your office or anything of that sort, then we're not gonna count you toward the quorum. We do not need to know your location. If you need to be elsewhere, and I don't know, we've had board members in Florida and we've had them go to a public library or town hall or something like that, and then we've gotten the address, we count them towards the quorum. They're in a public physical location, just not the same public physical location that the board is in.
Okay.
But that has to be noticed ahead of time.
It does. And that, that old law was cumbersome for that reason.
Okay, good.
So I'm sorry, that's no longer the case?
You can do it that way, right? So there's 2 methods. One is easier, one you can be at home. We don't need to know where you are. We don't need to notice it, but you're not going to count toward the quorum, but your vote will count. The other method is the old way. We need to know where you are. We need to notice it. It must be public and we'll count you toward the quorum and your vote.
Okay. Oh, okay, so the difference in the two is counting towards a quorum, essentially.
Yes, and the notice requirements.
Right. Okay, but the vote counts either way.
Vote counts either way.
Okay.
So it seems like these extraordinary circumstances don't really apply. Like, for example, tonight, if Greg, if he was in a public place and it was noticed, did he still need that other criteria of the extraordinary circumstances?
If he was in a public location and it was noticed, no. If he's in a non-public location, we've noticed that we're using video conferencing, we have not noticed his location, we would look for an extraordinary circumstance. The last one is a catch-all, if you will, for any other reason.
It's on the second page.
But if you would like the extraordinary we're using exactly what, the law recommended. If there is another reason that you think would be appropriate to include here, we can do that, or.
Well, in Greg's case, for example, we're Tuxedo residents. Obviously, we're most of the time coming from home, which is 10-minute drive for most of us. Greg works, I'm pretty sure, 9 to 5 or beyond in Manhattan. He's the outlier that would have to reverse commute to Tuxedo. So I think that's the condition we're trying to accommodate.
Okay, I have a board who has put in a condition of, which is more general, just the board member is unable to be at the physical location. We can add one additional reason that captures, I think, what'll be the most common for Greg and others, that you're just physically not able to be in Tuxedo for work or otherwise, because of work or otherwise.
Right. I mean, because that would mean whatever meetings and such, whatever business he was doing, he'd have to build this meeting into it, which could be
right.
Also for the care of, I really don't know whether Greg has kids at home or not, or a pet or anything else. To have to come up to Tuxedo and then go back as a caregiver, that could be a real challenge.
Sure. Yeah, I think what Julie and I will do is we'll work with the reason number 4, E is an elephant, the last one, and make sure it's broad enough to cover any circumstance.
But
Okay.
isn't D kind of covers that, work-related restrictions?
But
Well,
then
that's
it
what
says here,
I'm-
it must be signed by a member,
Oh,
written policy for the employer. If I'm reading that correctly, Irene.
Yes, you are.
okay.
So I think we need,
And the
Equal.
reality is, certain boards want to be very strict with the reasons why board members can participate remotely. So we're starting with the most strict policy. Other boards like yourselves, you're more flexible, so long as you do have to have a quorum in person, but if you want to provide your board members greater flexibility for the reasons that constitute extraordinary circumstances, we'll just revise the policy to be more lenient.
yeah, well, even B, having to do with an illness. To be honest with you, if any of my board members were here right now coughing and sneezing, I wouldn't be waiting for the doctor to give me the notice. I'd be like, hell no, I'm not sitting here with you, so.
Right.
Yeah, we can get rid of illness and we'll just leave illness and not have any, you don't need doctor backup or anything like that.
Okay.
Like
yeah,
I
that's-
said, certain boards are not wanting to provide that much flexibility, so we start from there and we can make it more lenient.
Yeah, I'd like to put in there, if you suspect you're ill, please,
Stay away.
participate remotely. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. That's not a joke.
I agree.
So, so you'll make those changes and that's what we'll be considering in the public hearing that we just set, or I think, did we vote on that? I'm not sure we did yet. But if I haven't done that, let's vote on the, public hearing to be held, Thursday, March 9th, 2023 at 1 PM with the annual meeting to follow. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous, 4 of us. Okay, we got that done. So we're at the review of Hamlet revitalization applications. We might have to move to that table down there, because we do have an applicant present.
But do we have 4 copies that we could look at up here?
I don't think we have 4, but,
Did you make one? Did they make one today? I gave you 3.
yeah, 3, and we're sitting close enough. I've actually reviewed it, and so it's up to you guys. You want to pass it up here, or I'll go get it?
Oh, we're here, why don't we,
All right,
can you get through?
I can. Betty, I thought when we start off, I'll read into the record, excuse me.
No, go ahead. I don't need to do it. You should sit on it.
No, you.
Keep sitting. Just wanted to make sure everyone had the full package, that's all.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll pass them down.
Yeah, maybe we'll do boy, boy, girl, girl. How
Thank
about
you.
that?
Wow.
Yeah, I was just looking at my phone.
Okay, for the record, we do have an application in front of the board, submitted by the Tuxedo Historical Society. And today we have Ms. Betty Langberg. I believe your title is President of the Historical Society. And she's written a cover letter that, I believe everybody has.
Yeah, there's multiple copies of that.
Okay, I made a bunch of them.
I have.
Okay, so we're good. So Betty, I thought maybe it would be a good way, you are our first applicant before the board, so if we're figuring it out as we go, that's because that's what we're doing, okay? So we're figuring this out, and,
I'm here because I'm not sure what we're doing.
okay, I want to make sure I get a microphone to you, so,
Do you have an extra one of that copy? letter
yeah.
that you sent?
You want to take that one? We can
Yeah.
put that kind of between us and.
yeah, let me put this close to you, Betty.
Well, I'm not sure what you wanted me to do.
Okay, I thought your letter,
Is this just for the board, or do you want me to address the board with the letter that I have given all of you?
I think the letter,
Okay, fine. I'll be happy to do that.
I read it, it was so well written that,
Well, thank
that's
you.
why you don't have to wing it. So the board recognizes Miss Betty Langberg?
Okay. So I wrote this letter, it's dated yesterday. It's our application for funding to restore and improve the Tuxedo Historical Society building at 241 Route 17 Tuxedo to revitalize the hamlet. The description of our project, and you have a lot of the details in the package that we've given to you, is exterior renovations to the historic building and grounds to make it senior and handicapped accessible. I will point out to you there, the reason we got that bank was because in our application to JP Morgan Chase was specifically to enable our seniors and handicapped to access the Historical Society exhibits, et cetera.
Can I ask you to pause just for 1 second?
Sure.
Can you guys hear Betty clearly? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure that was, go ahead, please proceed.
To improve safety by adding an additional means of entry and exit. Today, there's only one way in and out, and if we're going to have that flow of people in there, we really need two exits and entry. Improvement to the lot, the parking area, additional sidewalk and landscaping. The project would include removal of the concrete block wall where they took out the ATM for a new entry using period wood casings and trims. So we're trying to retain the beautiful historic value of that particular building. Remove all the surface-mounted security lights. We'd already turned out all those huge numbers of them, but there's lots of them still up there. And the exposed conduits and brackets, and repair holes with matching stones. Sand and reglaze, prime, and paint the historic windows. Create new attractive period signage and lighting. The history of the building is that it's a beautiful building and an important and historical artifact for our town's history. It was built circa 1925, and it has always been a bank, always served as a bank, except now when JP Morgan gave it to this community, which is a wonderful thing, and specifically for the seniors in our community. We're eager to restore the building and make it accessible to the public as soon as possible. We're ready to go with some presentations. We're ready to go. However, we do face financial constraints that make it challenging for us to undertake the repairs and renovations on our own. We're, I have to say, I would say poorly supported by the town as a whole in terms of our finances. We're a totally volunteer organization, and we're trying to build up our reserves to a point where we can actually hire some person that would be also the historian, basically. And that's why we're reaching out to the LDC for your assistance with a matching grant to help us achieve that goal. The benefit to the community is this: the Historical Society is the archives and museum for the entire town of Tuxedo, including the village of Tuxedo Park. Cultural organizations contribute to the revitalizing of the downtown communities. We believe this building, being strategically located in the downtown hamlet, a beautiful building within walking distance of the train station, the bus stop, and as well as the neighbors all in the downtown hamlet area, and it will play a vital role in the revitalization of the Tuxedo Hamlet Business District. With current and projected new growth and development, there will be increased interest in the history of this beautiful town. I'm already getting lots of inquiries from people, new people who've moved into the park, people outside of the park, asking for the history of their house and lots of historical information. Our plans are to have a running video that's always running there. Somebody comes in, they can sit down and learn the history of the town of Tuxedo, as well as exhibits depicting the events, historic landmarks, important people, industries in the town, etc. Visitors to Tuxedo often look, they ask me, where's a good place to go and have lunch today or something? I send them to Dottie Autry's. They're always looking for a meal and to explore the hiking trails, and they want to know what are the other attractions around here. We could cooperate with the other businesses in town by offering 10% off coupon. You know, go here, you can get 10% off. It gets people introduced to the new business, and they can develop new customers that way. We could provide maps of the downtown area, highlighting historic buildings, where the hiking trails go, such as the Bruce Price houses all along Library Road, for instance, where the other industries or where the other businesses are in town. With a map, we can just hand it out to them. And I'm looking at that right now.
That's nice.
So we now look to you to partner with us and make this happen. We're ready to go, actually, and help us achieve our ultimate goals. we can make it a reality. This is our vision, and we can make it a reality if you'll join with us on this and provide an improved level of safety, security, and public space that will draw visitors to this revitalized Tuxedo. We invite you to come and see it if you haven't seen it. I think most of you have, but you're certainly welcome to come. I'll take you inside and show you around.
Thank you, beautiful.
you.
You're very welcome.
I'd just like to say personally, I know the work that, the heart and soul you put into it, the effort to secure that building is no easy feat. I know
Only a year and a half.
your persistence to acquire that building and keep it
We're lucky to have the volunteers.
for the
Yes.
use of our,
Volunteers make it happen.
of our community is really incredible. and needs to
So
be
Chase
commended.
donated that building to you? You didn't have to pay anything for it?
We did not.
Okay, that's good.
I wrote a letter to Jamie Diamond, actually, requesting, I had heard that it was closing, they'd already closed the building and that the ATM was going out, and specifically requesting it for ease of access for the seniors in the community.
You-
I got bounced around to this one, that one, whatever.
I
but
can
we got
imagine.
it.
You mentioned that your society also supports the park, Tuxedo Park.
Of course, it's always been that way.
Have you,
They're part of the town.
no, right, exactly, yeah. Have you approached them for perhaps a contribution?
I have
to it?
not, I have approached them about a different matter, but I have approached on some things in terms of reduction of cost, yes.
So I'd like to review the rest of the package here, Betty, and if we have any questions, we'll certainly pose them to you.
Yeah, so
guess
had I
I
known that
jumped
we
the
were
gun.
going to do that this evening, I would have also had Billy Mincy, who's produced all the drawings for us, and also Jeff Gunderman, who's the contractor that we're
Right.
working with. So hopefully it's pretty well spelled out, so I'll do the best I can.
Did you get more than one proposal from a contractor?
We did not.
Is
We-
that-
and
didn't
the-
we have
part
that
of the
as
reason
part of the
being-
application?
Part of the reason being, we've seen Jeff's work, he's meticulous in what he does. When we first opened it up after we had our ribbon cutting ceremony, both the exterior door and then there's an interior set of doors in the same entranceway. They had a gap of about this all the way around the exterior of it. I mean, so I don't even know how they even heated it in the wintertime or cooled it, whatever. He did a fantastic job in terms of repairing that and making it solid for us, basically, and we're very happy. I know that he worked on the train station, he did a beautiful job there. He's in the community, he's a local resident,
This
and
is the
he's
architect.
worked with us to do this.
This is the architect you're referring to.
Not the architect.
Contractor.
Oh, the contractor.
Mhm.
Now, to Michelle's point, we have it in our requirements to get two cost estimates.
Oh, I did not see that.
Well, it's a little confusing because it doesn't say two different cost estimates. It says two estimates. If you read it carefully.
Well, would he be doing the paving as well as the landscaping, or would that be a different
He
contractor?
was probably working with another subcontractor.
He would probably be the
was
He'd be the
subcontracting
general?
Part of it out, and he
Okay.
wouldn't be doing all of it, I'm sure, yeah,
That makes sense.
yes.
So
I mean, obviously, you'll need to review it and.
I mean, just as a sanity check, you usually get more than one estimate.
I think
Right.
two would be fair, yeah.
Yeah, I
I think
mean, we
that's
don't have to
what
get,
we're saying.
you know, typically corporate-wise, you get three, but I think two is,
Yeah,
you know,
it's-
that gives a little sanity check to it. And it protects you also. I mean,
It's just that we're familiar with the work that he does. We like the work that he does, and he worked quickly to help us get our estimate in place because we're ready to hit the ground running, truthfully. We want to be in that building, and it's to the advantage of this whole community to see that happen.
Rachel, I'd like to ask your legal opinion on that. Is the board able to review the application and decide whether we feel it's complete enough to approve without a second contractor's submission?
I think as long as the board can state for the record, a reason why they don't believe the second quotation is necessary for the awarding the grant, that's fine. And I think I just heard the applicant state that you're familiar with this contractor. Perhaps, I don't know if you've worked with him before, but I think that's, if there's good justification that the Historical Society, has a relationship with this contractor, I think the board can rely on the applicant's information for that.
Yeah, I mean, my thinking on that is they're investing, I think they're asking for $100,000 and I have evidence that they're gonna match that. The roll of the dice is probably more onerous for them than it is for this board because, they have to live with the work that the contractor's doing. And I would just suggest to the board that we just look at the scope of work and see if we have further questions.
He has
Well-
done work all throughout the town, and one is the train station, but I know that he's also contracted with many people within Tuxedo Park itself, as well as outside of the park.
Well, I was thinking because it is a historical building and you are the Historical Society,
He's pretty-
if we could be flexible with the fact that it has to match the historical structure.
We're
and
trying
you-
to maintain the integrity.
Right, and you may not be able to find contractors that can meet that need or skill.
Exactly.
I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, I do agree with two estimates in general, but maybe because this is an historical building and it's the Historical Society, and if the numbers don't look so crazy, I mean, we all have common sense.
And
But-
the other thing, if I could just add, the architect, the one who did all the drawings, is also on the board of the Historical Society. And he has a vested interest in making sure that building, he knows architecture, obviously, that building maintains its
Integrity.
So many things that were discussed in our little meetings together in terms of, he even talked about power washing. He said where the ATM used to be, if you strong power wash that section's gonna look like a new piece of building as opposed to the old stone.
Right.
So he's very familiar with all of those things we're trying to preserve.
The other
I
thing,
understand what you're saying.
the other thing we have to consider, since this is our first application, is establishing a precedent that, well, one is okay.
Well, I
On
would
the
think
very
that,
first one, it's.
No, but
Yeah.
I would, all I'm suggesting is we look through the packet and see how convincing, as Rachel pointed out to us, do we feel like it's sufficient? So, all I'm suggesting is that we look at this right now.
Sure, that's fine.
okay.
So I'm looking at the scope of work and construction estimate. This document here, and
Oh, there.
John's sitting next to me, so we'll share this.
Okay.
So we're looking at some of the numbers.
And to that point, if there's something specific that I won't be able to answer, I can certainly have.
Okay, so I'm looking at the cover. It's obviously been assembled by a licensed architect, William Mincy. I think that's worth noting. The proposed scope of work, exterior demolition on the east elevation of Route 17. John has the blueprint schematics.
Oh, he's looking.
You see the east elevation there, John, by any chance?
This is demolition, it doesn't.
Do we have a
Okay.
picture of what it's going to look like? I
Yeah,
only
that's-
have
yes.
pictures of
Do you all have
existing.
this one? Do you all have it?
That's this packet, right?
Yeah, that's the
Where is-
that's the same.
That's what you
Oh,
have.
we have this? Oh, okay, maybe it's interested to see it.
Do you have that?
So let's peruse the schematic. I don't know if you have this, Julie.
Oh, it looks like that, I guess.
I sent this late. I had thought this was distributed to you and the Historical Society packet. I sent it by email before the meeting, but
Yes, Rachel and I both received it.
Yes, we have it.
I don't know if you could, if there's anybody in the audience that might need to look at it, but I'm not gonna go, I can't go to any great length to do that. But anyway, to the question of can we see what's there? Do we
Yeah,
want to
it's
look at it
this drawing.
together, or
This drawing.
I see we're kind of on the,
Last
not on the
page, I
same
think.
page.
I think it's the last page, right? What it's going to look like?
Are you looking at E3, Michelle? Trying to
I
keep
am.
us together, okay.
I am.
Well, E3 is the north elevation that's showing that the ATM will be removed.
That was
Yep. And then this is what it's.
Stairs and a door will be put in there.
And I see that.
And that will be to specifications for handicap accessibility. We've done all the measurements that we can actually have.
I actually walked the outside of the building. Those exterior prison lights are all gonna be removed, right?
Right.
Major improvement.
So you're gonna
Oh, good.
keep you're gonna keep the bank
Julie's got
sign?
it up on
Oh.
the screen.
Okay.
So,
So we're looking at the last page right now, Julie. Thank you so much.
that's for E3.
It's labeled E3, literally the last page. There you go. Thank you so much.
Are you gonna have like a little post that has one of those push to open, you know?
It'll be whatever is required from a handicap accessibility.
Do we want to work backwards? The west elevation.
Well, I have one question on the east. You're gonna leave the bank sign there, the stone engraved sign?
Okay, now we're looking at E1,
Yeah.
Julie.
Let's go to E1.
E1, I'm trying to keep this together,
Okay.
so
Let's see, E1.
we're not on the same page, we're not on the same page.
There's a note that says
Literally.
restore damage to original signage. And the original signage is, I think, the First National Bank.
So the first signage is Tuxedo National Bank. That was the very first bank. And when the JP Morgan Chase, they had put a plastic cover over Tuxedo National Bank. And so where he shows that line, on the eye is where they had
I
dug
see.
into the stonework and put a light.
Right
So
there.
that it lit up at night as JP Morgan.
Ah,
And we want to restore that to its natural historic
Oh, cool.
signage.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
So of course, removing the old deposit box,
Which will then be restoned to match the stone on the front of the building there.
the walkway and the railings would be removed,
They would be removed, yes.
because now you're trying to get accessibility on the side.
Yes, from the parking direction.
So there'll still be two entrances, so it'll be, but the sidewalk will be in a different place
Yes, the sidewalk is shown on the.
in the drawing. I saw. I'm just curious why you're removing the light fixtures, I'm just out of curiosity. You don't feel they're,
The
the
light
existing light fixtures that you are going to remove, is because they're not really of the original? Okay.
Right.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
just curious.
And I saw the presentation that was done here by your consultants in terms of what was proposed for improving the whole thing. And a lot of what they talked about was signage of the period, which makes more sense. So,
I'm looking at S3.
That's 3, okay.
So this is the proposed site plan.
It's not labeled as such, but the entrance now is where the ATM used to be, basically.
correct, yes, that's correct. We've shown that, I think, on the last page. Yes, on the last page. You can
Just
see
for-
the concrete wall, the blocks that they put in there, which is where the ATM was.
So on S3, Betty, you have marked in the front meadow, and also right in front of the building, it says
so-
existing flagpole, and then there's an arch there. Can you explain what the arch is?
Yes, so the flagpole already exists today, we certainly would keep it there, and it is lit up at night. So this area would be a sort of paved area, so that if we had an event there and we wanted to have some refreshments or something, we could serve it out on a small patio in the front there, which would be wonderful.
So that, as we saw before, the railing and that all is gone, and now you have,
Yes, you just have your nice patio
Landscaping.
there. You still have the existing walkway, which is over on the, as you look at S3, all the way on the right-hand side of the drawing there. And that gives,
so then you have a connection to what I personally hope the town of Tuxedo will do a new sidewalk that abruptly ends, I think.
that we heard in prior discussions, and it would be ideal, really. They can walk from the bus station, they can cross from the train, they could come right down, and we'd be happy.
Yeah, I certainly don't need convincing on
We would
that
put
one.
some benches there so people could sit and enjoy the scenery, have a glass of water, have water available if people wanted to purchase.
So I think the main thing in the parking lot, you've gotten rid of that circular flow, which was needed for people to drive up to the ATM, which really just created a lot of lost space.
Right, and we picked up some parking spaces, and we propose to keep, so right there on the high, on the road, I can't think of the name of the road.
Park Ave?
Park Avenue, thank you. All that stonework that's already there, we would leave it. Actually, if you look at the first page, that is down here. Originally, that stonework was right along Route 17. I mean, I'm talking 1925, back in that time frame, there was old stonework up along that edge.
Well, I propose we actually do look at the first page, because I think that kind of shows and addresses the question, what's it gonna look like? So Julie, I'm looking at, exactly, thank you so much.
There we go. That one.
So we do have a bird's eye view of the parking area, which, again, it seems to maximize the number of spaces as opposed to what was there before. I think that maybe had 6 or 7 parking spots with that circular flow of traffic. It's clear to me from
Like one
the east
exit.
elevation on that page, removing the night deposit box, and also on the north elevation, getting rid of the ATM substantially improves and brings it back to the more historical view. And I think if you look at the small picture in the lower right-hand corner on that page that shows that deteriorating ramp,
Yeah,
I would lobby to say that
that's such a distraction.
it's an
Yeah, you're
ugly
right.
feature that I personally feel your proposed patio in the front is a much better use of the space.
I think it was an attempt at one time to do something ADA
Oh, yeah.
compliant.
No doubt, I'm sure it was required.
So you have this sidewalk or walkway that goes from
Leading
Route
out to
17,
yes.
and it continues to Park Ave, right? With that little curve?
Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
nice.
It gets them to the entranceway right there on that side, yeah.
And S1, the next page, Julie, just shows what the current existing conditions are. And as you can see, they've
Yeah.
gone from
1, 2, but this is,
6 parking spaces to, I count 14, possibly 15. Certainly,
It's a big
We've
difference.
already cleaned up, it was kind of messy, the garbage can back there, we
Oh.
removed 2 of them and replaced the others. But we'll look at putting that in some kind of an enclosure so that it doesn't stand up like that. They were a mess, they left water there, and anyway. One had hole in it, so water was going up, and
Oh, wow.
but it's gone.
I suggest we move to the document, scope of work and construction estimate. Exterior demolition is on the first page. I think we kind of just went through that. Does anybody think we need to read through? I'm looking at this document here.
You have it?
It should be in the packet.
Oh, here we
Oh,
go.
Should
okay.
all have it, yeah.
Says, the east elevation was removing the after-hours deposit. That's the Route 17 side, right? Anybody have any questions about that? Removing the old security lights. North elevation, removing the concrete block wall that filled where the ATM was. Remove the surface-mounted security lights. I've heard so many complaints about those security lights.
We took out the big ones, but there's still those square, they sit right on the roof, actually, yeah.
Yeah, those are going, right?
They're
Oh,
gone.
thank God. West elevation, the rear elevation, remove all surface-mounted bank security equipment, remove surface-mounted security lights. South elevation, remove alarm panel behind a decorative grill, remove surface-mounted security lights. Site demolition, remove existing asphalt paving, remove existing concrete curbs, remove existing concrete walkways, vegetation, and existing landscape lighting.
You know, not have that terrible tree that's all falling apart and you can program it. I don't know if you remember that, but anyway.
Then we have the exterior proposed construction. In the east elevation, Route 17, install a stone Dutchman at all openings where security equipment was removed, all stone and other material to match existing, submit samples for approval. West elevation, rear elevation, repair the stucco and stone wall where security and lighting were removed. The north elevation, the parking lot elevation, install new stone door surround and stone jambs and sill, clean existing stone of all caulking and other material from the old ATM, install new solid oak door and frame and hardware. Site work, new parking lot layout, new concrete curbs and paving, existing catch basins remain, new French drain at new entry to be installed and connected to existing catch basin, new concrete walkways and terrace, new landscape to include existing trees and planting. Then we have a letter from S&B Total Home Care. Starts to get into the pricing. Do you have that document, Julie, by any chance?
I'm sure that I do. I'll find it and share it.
It's connected to the scope of work document. It's scope of work and construction estimate. It's stapled together, at least on our copy.
Should be, they were all.
I'll plow through it. So S&B Total Home Care, that's Mr. Gunderman's firm, right? Okay. Estimate is based on the plans created by William Mincy, architect, dated January 24th. Work to be completed, Scheme A, exterior plan only, parking lot, sidewalks, landscaping. There you go, exactly, Julie. Thank you so much. I'm just working down the page there, Julie. Removal and disposal. Remove and dispose of concrete curbing, asphalt. I think we just kind of went over that. Site work, contractor to perform site work as to the plans listed as Scheme A. Include the following: establishment of concrete curbing as indicated with slight adjustment on east side of parking area to increase to beyond existing catch basin by 3 feet. Installation of a vehicular channel drain, 12-inch width by 15-foot length, and to tie into existing catch basin with a 6-inch piping indicated as a French drain. Oh, this is the, all the site work.
One thing that kind of bothers me there is his area of potential sidewalk, lawn and irrigation are aspects not considered at this time. What's this potential sidewalk? Is he leaving out a sidewalk from the estimate?
I think that's the street sidewalk that the town is really,
Okay. He does label it as potential on the drawing,
Yeah,
so.
'cause that's what we talked about, and that's
Yeah.
why we have it feeding
Okay,
from
I,
there.
yep, I see that now.
Thank you.
John, you do this kind of work as planning board chair. You probably be the better leader of that than I am.
Okay. If you can continue scrolling, it's easier for us to kind of read it off that. I think.
Fine. I just don't want to do a read aloud if that's not something you would normally do at your planning board anyway. So,
Just backing up a little bit while I still think of it, I remember him saying, referring to caulking, okay? And maybe it's mentioned in here as we go along, but I didn't see anything about an asbestos or lead survey to see if there's any asbestos and lead in anything. And asbestos can be in caulking. It can be in caulking around windows, especially the older they are.
I can certainly ask him that specific question, but.
I would feel better if it was addressed.
so let me step back for a second. We're trying to approve a grant, but this would still have to go before the planning board, right?
Yes, but it could influence the total cost.
I see.
Right.
Because asbestos,
I understand what you're saying. I would highly doubt that he would use anything with asbestos in it.
No,
No, that it
What
already
exists.
exists.
to remove.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, an asbestos remediation,
Most of the stuff is missing. If you go look at those windows, they're in pretty bad shape, actually, but whatever.
but again, any asbestos mitigation or lead mitigation,
It's costly.
very expensive.
Yeah, it's costly.
You know, it would blow your budget,
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately. So
That's a good point.
it should be checked.
Okay.
It should be checked.
Have they been to a TAC meeting? I mean,
No.
no, oh, okay, nothing,
No.
okay.
And while we're thinking of it, ultimately, this is going to have to go before the planning board and the architectural review board, putting my hat on for that.
Okay.
And I'm sure that's
down the
why
road.
we have a planning board representative on this board. We flipping the page?
Yeah, I think so. West elevation, rear elevation, remove surface mounted lights, conduit.
So we're on the page, Julia, that starts with
Cut
cut
and
and repoint. Probably scrolling down one.
Once again, it talks about caulk, removing and putting in new caulk, but
There we are, Julie. Thank you.
remove concrete block wall, modify openings, clean existing stone of wall caulking. There it is again.
Yeah.
Tuxedo, surface mounted security lights. Okay, going to the south elevation. Remove alarm panel behind decorative grill, remove surface mounted lights, barrel mounting. Cut and repoint power cockle joints, painting. And just again, we get into that, paint colors also. We get into paint colors for the architectural review of this.
Are
We
you
don't-
talking about the windows?
Any painting.
Okay.
You know, we don't dictate, but
No, but specifically, are you talking about the windows here? I think that's.
anything that's painted, we want to see your proposal. I'm sure it's going to be appropriate, but we do require that you show us that.
Okay.
And to get specific, it's Benjamin Moore, or whatever the color is. You know,
Be specific as that.
Yeah.
okay.
that's not an issue for the grant, but I'm thinking ahead.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
And then the bottom line, 203,000. Are you envisioning that you're gonna have to do interior work?
Not as part of this project. I do anticipate that we will. We definitely need to do interior work. I have approached Senator Skoufis about the possibility of getting funding for the interior work.
So after this work is done, the building is not gonna be usable yet?
To some degree, it would be, but
Okay.
one of the main things is access for us. For instance, the teller stations that were there, that whole strip of teller stations is there. There is an open area where we can have seating. I consider doing my annual meeting there, actually. We can have seating, or we can do a small presentation, assuming we do it later in the day because of the sunlight coming in at this point. But it is our intention to have the entire thing up to wonderful museum standards, basically, in terms of exhibit space.
So it will be usable after this work?
Yes, absolutely. And then you'll see everybody coming to get money.
Is there anything else in that package, John?
Nothing that just
About-
jumps out at me.
So the,
So that, I'm sorry, we got, there was one page left on that, Julie? Apologies.
That's the conditions from the contractor.
Okay.
That's his terms and
I see,
conditions,
thank you.
basically.
So that document is done. I just wanted to look at the financials there.
and you're not looking for financing now, you have this money in, ready to go.
You should have a copy of that.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah, I think
I
we're,
found it, sorry.
so you have 100,000 in your pocket.
We would prefer not to have to spend that 100,000, but if you have to spend it, we'll have
So
to.
question to Rachel. So if the board were to approve this grant, obviously, it's all subject to how it goes with the planning board, and so this is our first one we're working on. This is hypothetical at this point, my question. Is that what we would do, make conditions based on, so say, for example, I'm just using this grant proposal. John Bagno mentioned the potential impacts of asbestos mitigation, which could be substantial. How would we factor in those kind of hidden things in any project?
I think that for this application and others that are at this stage where it still needs to go to the planning board and there could be additional costs, significant costs related to the project that are unknown at this point, it would probably make best sense for this board to make this be the inducement resolution, if you will. So you'd make a motion to accept the application. You're expressing your intent to move forward with a grant at this point, but you'll have a second meeting to review the application and determine the grant amount based on the planning board's determination. If it's very time sensitive and the Historical Society needs a determination sooner rather than later, then you could approve the grant in the amount of 100,000. But the risk on that is that we'd have to go back, reopen the application and increase the grant amount if that would be the desire of the board and the Historical Society. So I think you can do it either way, but it may make best sense to just do your official intent to move forward with this application now, and then a final award after the planning board has looked at it.
In this, in the notes, after the description of all the work, it says that the owner will be responsible to pay all extra costs, including work not included, not listed, any unforeseen work after construction is started. Does that mean that the applicant is willing to take on additional expenses themselves?
Well, there can be legitimate extras once work starts. And usually there are, you know, but somebody has to watch the contractor that what he's saying, this is not in my scope, that it is a legitimate extra, and you would be responsible for that. But you gotta watch them, you know, these contractors.
It does include the asbestos in that paragraph as well.
Where is that? I didn't see
Right
that.
here.
It says it's not included, what does it say, not
It
included?
says, including but limited
Limited.
to,
The structure, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, asbestos,
yeah.
and work additions or changes made by the owner, architect, engineer, designer.
See it under notes?
Yeah, it's under no.
That it's not included, owner will be
Owners
responsible for it, for any
Right,
asbestos, so
exactly.
there you go. So, this intent, even if we gave you a check tonight, a check, you wouldn't be able to do anything yet, because it has to go to the planning board. It has to go to architectural review board. So if we request a few extra things, like a lead survey, asbestos survey, and a second bid, I don't think it's gonna delay you, because our planning board meeting is March 7th. You could come before this board on March 9th with your new information, and you could also appear before us on March 7th with, for the site plan review and the architectural review board review. So I don't think if we ask for these extra things, it's gonna delay you, because you can't do anything yet.
Well, I mean, I can ask for a second opinion, for a second person to look at it. We are over the top confident in this contractor's ability to do what we want him to do.
And that's important, and.
So
and-
even if the price came in under, and we really don't know the contractor, we probably would be less
And that's,
asked to do that because of the reputation this particular contractor
yeah,
has.
and that's legitimate. I don't think we are going to absolutely require the low bid.
Yeah,
You know, normally, if you ask for 2 or 3 bids, you at least have to have the philosophical idea that, yeah, they should all be qualified to do the work, or you shouldn't even ask them for bids.
exactly.
So that if they give you a lower bid, you can't say, well, I like this other guy, you know? But I think we'd be flexible. Somebody comes in at 195, you know, and you have a lot of confidence in the
Right.
203 number.
Not just me, also the architect, absolutely. The architect has worked with him on the prior renovation of the train station in Tuxedo. And he has seen work that he does. He does regular work within Tuxedo Park. You probably already know that. We have a lot of confidence. His focus during all of our discussions, and we've been in and out of that building so many times, has always been maintaining the integrity of that building, which is what we want.
Just important.
Maybe I'm too skeptical by nature, but that's the way I am.
I understand what you're saying. I do. I mean, if it.
You know, I think the project's certainly worthwhile. I think eventually we'll approve it, but I don't think we're quite there yet.
Okay. It's fair.
Any further, I have a few comments I'd like to make. I think this contractor we have actually used in work here in Town Hall.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Before my time, I guess.
Regardless,
Michelle, you don't know.
I'm less concerned
Well,
about,
his work here. I don't know what what Ken's referring to, but.
I understand John's concerns that, if you didn't have a licensed architect, you know, doing the work, who's also overseeing the project, I'd be more concerned. And the fact that I know you're investing money that you're gonna watch every penny. I'd like to see, of course, as John was stating, that regardless whether there's 2 bids from contractors or not, you still have to go before the planning board and architectural review board, and knowing now also, the concerns about the asbestos, I'd be suggesting that you do that analysis anyway. I mean,
Absolutely.
the contractor, that could be the first thing you ask him to do is, what's the projected, I'm not exactly sure
Well,
how it's
somebody else would be
tested.
He has to do a survey and take samples of
Sample.
anything where he thinks possibly could have asbestos
Asbestos.
or possibly could
And he
have
has to
lead.
test it. Yeah.
I'd suggest that you do that anyway, and possibly just ask him to do that and as the very first step towards taking on this job, because you just want to know how that impacts the overall project, whether it means you dial some of this back, you stop, or you then decide with the board of the Historical Society, well, we're willing to cover that additional cost. And then you'd come back for us and, if you were gonna match, our model here is to match how that goes up as well.
You might even get more money.
Yeah.
If the
If
number
it's
goes up.
forcing you to invest more,
Right.
or if you just decide with the architect and the builder, well, we could dial back certain things and still stay around $200,000 because your organization doesn't want to invest more than $100,000 right now. That's typically also what could happen in a project, that you just say, well, there's certain things we don't have to do right now, and keep the cost at around $200,000, but.
And normally, and this would be the purview of the building inspector, Dave Makish, but normally before he would issue a demolition permit, and you don't have a lot of demolition, that would be, again, his decision whether you need a permit for that.
Okay.
But if you do, he would normally require that, well, show me that there's no lead, show me that there's no asbestos. And then it's down the road a bit, and then you gotta almost restart and do that survey. So I would get the survey, get another price. And my final thing is I'm concerned about the precedent that we'd set if we only get one bid on the very first step.
Right.
I'd like to address that from my point of view, I'm one of four here. I think we're gonna get other proposals that don't necessarily have a licensed architect submitting and also overseeing the work. That to me is a major consideration, and that it's a contractor that you've done business with. I'm less concerned about the second contractor bid, as opposed to, the analysis of anything, asbestos or lead. That, I'm sure we all agree, first of all, it's an absolutely necessary step, so
Safety and
there's no
health.
negotiating
Yeah.
on that. That's not from this board, that's what, thankfully, having the planning board chair with us here on this board lets you
So that
know.
would seem to imply, and maybe I'm understanding this incorrectly, if we don't touch the windows at all, they are what they are right now, right?
Yeah, if he would be suspicious of something and you don't touch it, and it's not what they call friable, it's not gonna flake off.
Right.
Exactly.
And even if it did flake off, that can be encapsulated, so you don't have to remove it. But again, you have to, first step is you have to know what's there.
Yeah, okay.
And then there are various ways of treating it. And the encapsulation obviously is less expensive than removing it, because you need tents and bunny suits and
Yeah.
the whole business,
It's a big deal. Yeah.
Again, I'm just gonna say it, I would support the intent to move forward. Obviously pending, planning board, ARB, feedback. And, again, I'm less concerned about the second bid, but
Well, I'm not, I'm a little, what's the intent mean? What would we,
I asked that from Rachel.
is that an approval or is, I don't know.
No, it's not an approval. You're just accepting the application and demonstrating your intent to move forward potentially with the application, but accepting the application at this juncture is fine, and it can be on your agenda on March 9th, like John pointed out, after the planning board looks at it on the 7th.
But I think we want to be clear about what we would expect at the next meeting. So if we are saying a second bid is required, then okay, that should be stated so the applicant doesn't come back and say, well, it wasn't clear what you wanted me to do. We're certainly clear that the safety analysis, I'm not exactly sure how you word that, but that part of it is done, and that there's been approval from the Planning and Architectural Review Board, right? Because why would we approve a grant that didn't pass muster of the Planning Board and the ARB? But by saying our intent to move forward is subject to approval by the Planning and the Architectural Review Board, which also means the potential hazardous materials have been certified, dealt with. The only thing I think I might not have total agreement on what I'm stating is I would not add the second bid as an absolute requirement. I'd leave it to the architect to decide that, but I don't know what the other board members think.
Well, I have the same concern John has, that, it's in the requirements for the application.
Okay.
I kind of agree also with John. If we're gonna say that everyone needs 2 estimates and bids, we need to stick with that. But I also feel it's kind of a unique situation with the Historical Society, and have the flexibility because of the fact of the integrity of the design and the skill that it takes to refurbish a historical building. So I kind of feel like, I don't know,
It will force a delay, a serious delay, I think. in
No, I
the
don't
process.
think it should, because get a hold of a second contractor and give him a date when you need his number. The end of February, that gives him 2 weeks.
And then what? If
To-
I don't
to-
have a second one, then what?
Well, from my perspective, you have to get it. Give him the parameters. Look, we want another estimate from you, and you have to get it to you by February 28th. Or give him a couple days if he needs a little bit more. It's still plenty of time. It's not going to delay you ultimately being able to start. I feel strongly we need a second bid, especially the very first application. To waive that right off the bat,
So the other thing I would just add, that I think we'll have to consider as we move forward, I doubt we'll have every submission with a licensed architectural review and an architect who's actually overseeing a project. So that's my only consideration here. I think in this application, they have a higher standard
Higher
of.
standard.
Well, one thing is, a lot of it is site work, right? Which should be pretty easy to get a second estimate on. No?
I don't know. I
mean,
haven't tried to do that.
there's
and,
Rhino
I have
or-
limited time, but
do you know-
I'll do the best I can.
Rhino, or I don't know how you
Says it
say that.
Reno.
Reno.
Sorry. Reno, I know they've done a lot of work, they're just up the road, you know where they are, right?
I think
You
on
go
this
north,
job, they'd be a
it's on the right.
subcontractor.
I'm sorry?
On this job, I bet they'd be a subcontractor.
for the paving.
Right, yeah,
Oh,
that might help
paving,
the
pavers,
estimate.
landscape.
No, but I mean, that still wouldn't be an overseeing second bid on everything, now you're
On the
breaking it down.
building
to
and all
sec-
that, they don't do buildings.
You need
Well, they-
a general contractor that,
I need a general contractor that understands the requirement, for instance, for access to that entryway where the ATM was, because both the contractor and also Billy, the architect, specifically did all kinds of measurements to make sure that, in fact, we could put
We
what is
had,
required in terms of where that entry on the side where the ATM was, so it's part of our driving thing is to make sure that it's handicapped and senior accessible, basically.
I have a question for our
How
council.
about excuse me, just for 1 second. We did a lot of ADA work here in Town Hall. And, maybe Bill Mincy can contact them. They're a general contractor. They did electrical, they did the ADA ramps, the doors here, right here, the one to the court, they did ADA bathrooms, so.
Who is it?
West Star, I believe. I can get that from,
The building department.
yeah, exactly.
Dave would know.
Dave
that
would know
stuff.
who did it, yeah.
So Rachel, I know even in work here in town, we've tried, that requires us to have 3 bids. And, sometimes you reach out to contractors and there's also determination that they're not available. I mean, is there also the consideration of due diligence that you tried to get other contractors and just, especially with the kind of historical nature of what they're trying to do, is that in any way part of a?
Yes, I think if the board ultimately, like if the applicant comes back in March and says, look, I couldn't get a second bid, timing, whatever the extenuating circumstances may be, this board can absolutely use all of that, establish that as part of your record. If you decide as a board that you're okay moving forward without a second quote.
I mean, but I'm not trying to look for a skirting of the requirement. I do know that sometimes this is absolutely true. We put things out for bid and only one vendor applies. And then,
That's true.
that happens a lot.
Yeah, it does.
And so, if you put a due diligence out there and you tried, that you posted on you submitted this to several contractors, and if they chose not to respond or, like said, this is not enough of a job, of whatever reason they give, we don't do that kind of historical stonework or whatever.
So she can document.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah,
Then
absolutely.
Maybe
Yep.
document who you call and the dates, and if they respond.
So we went through this with the train station.
That
We
makes
put it out for
perfect
bid and
sense,
nobody-
yeah.
My question is this, if I get a second opinion, right, and the bid comes in under, don't I have the choice to choose who I want to be
Yes.
the bidder?
You could certainly recommend to us, yes.
Yeah.
Recommend to you, but you would make the final decision who we go with?
Oh, just well, only for the grant, obviously,
Well, that's why I'm coming for the grant.
Yeah, the LDC isn't going to dictate what contractor you pick or require you to pick the lowest bidder.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
I want to make it that clear to me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think the
Yeah.
board is just asking to make sure that, the diligence is done as far as the cost of the project, but to the board, I would remind you of this. Your grant award is your grant award. If the cost of the Historical Society run over, they are going to be responsible for those costs. You're responsible up to whatever the grant amount is.
Yeah, I think if you went to two more people, and they both said, yeah, we don't want to do this, come back to us, hey, I tried to get a second bid from 2 other people, they didn't want to bid.
they could even just send you an email saying, you submitted to us the scope of the project as Billy Mincy put out there. We're not interested, And I think it would behoove you anyway, just to at least hear from other reputable contractors. Now, this is about the price it would be. And then you absolutely have the choice of which one you feel comfortable with.
But I think we would want to reserve the right. Suppose you get a bid of 160,000, just theoretical. I think we would reserve the right to say, well, we're going to give you 80. Maybe, but I would just want to keep that on the table.
So maybe.
And you could go to the high person, and then it's on you.
Yeah. If if S&B is subcontracting the site work, maybe he could at least get another quote.
Then I have the same contractor.
You have to say, yeah, but maybe you could save money that way.
Well, when you get a second bid, you know, that the general contractor could.
Or you could, couldn't
Refactor.
S&B go out and get another?
Yeah,
Or-
you have to select, we call it a lead contractor. That's gonna be responsible for the bottom line, and he's gonna go to whoever he has to
And
go
that's how
to.
I would view this person, because he's gonna subcontract obviously
Exactly,
some of the things. I
exactly.
agree.
Right.
And the fact that this gentleman, and I'm sure he's competent, that he's done a lot of work here, they know each other. You know, sometimes people are too familiar with each other. Again, I'm skeptical by nature with contractors. I've dealt with contractors when I used to work. So I know they're in the business to make money. Yes, they want to do a good job, but the bottom line is they want to make money. Have to remember that.
So I want to make sure that Betty has clear direction to move her proposal forward. I guess I'd want to state, I think you put a very impressive package here together. The work that's outlined here, I think is absolutely, in my view, I'm speaking for myself, and I'll then turn the microphone over to the rest of the board, what I would have hoped for. That you have a professional architecture, you submitted elevations. I don't think we have to imagine much of what the outcome would be. The parking schematic is so dramatically improved. The patio in the front, the historical preservation of the building is clear. I see the board saying, you know, get a second bid and move it forward with the planning board and the ARB. And at least from my perspective, my intent would be to want to see this move forward, but I'm going to pass the microphone. Irene, you want to comment?
I think you did a great job presenting your project. I love it. And I agree with everything you said, but there's also, it would be such a great asset, not only for the town, but for seniors. We just had our senior presentation, and I think you would open up the building for seniors to gather. And I think that's a big plus.
Really big. This is
My
a
first
community.
presentation would be to the seniors. I'm ready to go with it, honestly.
And I would just say that's what this board is really trying to do. I know you are the first applicant, but it does take a first applicant to move this stuff forward, you know? I'm not committing to be, first of all, I won't be on this board more than 2023, so this needs to move forward in my view.
Yeah, I'll echo what Irene and Ken have said. It's a great presentation. It's really going to contribute to the downtown revitalization, and hopefully we can get that sidewalk.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, that would be great. But we're also working on improvements to Park Avenue. So, you know, as a safer, or at least in the interim, until we can get sidewalks, hopefully improvements to Park Avenue will also make it more accessible. And so that'll be great.
It'll be a benefit definitely to the development that's going on down there in terms of, you know, people interested in what's this town all about, et cetera. And we're in a key spot to make that happen.
Yeah, I think it's a worthwhile project. I think it'll eventually happen. But as the stewards of this money, you know, we have to do our due diligence.
Right.
And just a couple of comments on the site plan. I don't think it's that good.
No.
Because it's not detailed enough for ourselves on the planning board or our consultants. You know, we might approve this if you came to the planning board with this same drawing, but it would have conditions so that you would have to add things to it. Now, what I'm willing to do is meet with you and our building coordinator, Deborah, who you probably know, And just go over this, tell you what we want to have added to it. And if you want to bring your architect, that's fine too. We have this preliminary meeting, it doesn't really have to be in that, we can do it separately, I think. I would check with Kelly, but I don't see any problem with that.
Okay, good.
That kind of gets you ready for the planning board meeting, so that we can clean up a lot of the stuff at that informal meeting. We don't approve anything, we don't commit to anything, but we kind of tell, hey, one example, your main entrance seems to be where the ATM used to be,
Yes.
right? Now that looks like it's the smaller entrance rather than the front entrance facing Route 17. It's, at least on the drawing, it looks smaller.
It would be to specifications for handicap requirement.
Okay.
So the other entrance actually is very difficult. It's, 2 doors that go out like this, and then 2 interior doors inside of that. So there's double doors and door.
But that kind of stuff should be labeled, primary entrance. I guess that the double doors, that would be your emergency exit, right? You have to have 2 exits. And again, those doors would have to push out.
So we think by adding another entrance, we're improving the overall safety of the building itself.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
But it should be labeled so we know. That's the kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and that, again, I'm sure that's how this board was designed, to have 2 town board members, a planning board member, a citizen, and of course,
Sure.
somebody from the related. And certainly having the planning board, because that's the next step, you don't want to go there and just, this is certainly the way to move forward, and that's what we're here to do, try to make these projects move forward.
And it'd be my intent at that March 7th planning board meeting and architecture review board meeting, it's the same board, same people, to be able at that meeting to give you approval for both of those. Then you come to us 2 days later with the second bid, and hopefully we could approve it, the whole thing at that meeting, which is,
It's a little confusing in the perspective that I would meet with the planning board first, and then come forward with the second bid thing, if I don't know what to specify to the second one giving a bid, what it is the.
no,
planning board
I
is looking
think
for.
you have a good scope here. It's maybe not completely reflected on the drawing,
Okay.
at least to my satisfaction. And I hope you don't think I'm giving you a hard time, because, I just want to do things properly.
Sure, I understand.
Over the years, and I think you support me on this, a lot of things weren't done properly. So,
It's fair.
before any of these
I'm
guys.
just trying to sort
True.
out the sequence for myself.
That's true.
I'm just trying to sort out the sequence for myself in terms of.
Well, I think when you and
things happen,
Billy,
so,
when you and Billy meet with John and Deborah,
Yeah,
it'll be clear.
that's fine.
Billy will understand all of this.
Should
Yeah, I
we-
don't think he's ever appeared before the planning board while I've been on it, so I don't know the man,
Who,
Billy
Billy?
This,
Oh, yeah. Okay,
so he's neutral as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
He's not good, he's not bad. I have no opinion at this point.
yeah, they have their own architectural firm in New York City, but he lives in Texas. Yeah.
Okay.
I think you have a pathway forward, right, Betty?
I think so.
I think so.
Do I meet with you first before the other meeting, you and Deborah?
Yeah, but if you can bring the architect, that's fine,
Okay, fine.
okay?
Well, thank you, and
Yeah, thank you.
look forward to having you on our next agenda. So we had another applicant. Carl? Yep.
Did we get a completed application or just the original?
Just the original.
Okay.
Was it complete?
No.
Okay, so we don't really have an application.
Well, I think the applicant's probably looking for some feedback.
Yeah, okay. And I guess we also have another one I sent to you, I got this afternoon, just a very informal,
I didn't,
oh, okay,
maybe I didn't look,
okay.
but I know Scott was on the call for a while, he's
I
dropped
guess
out.
he's, yeah.
Okay, do you want-
We have to apologize to Carl for being patient.
Yes, and thank you for his patience.
No problem. I'm on the road anyway, so it's all right.
I'm gonna get the packet, which I think is down there. Do you guys have copies of the packet?
Not that one, no.
All right, might need a 5-minute recess, but,
I have it
I'm
on
the
my,
secretary, bottle washer, photocopier and everything. So.
I have it, you sent it, right, Ken? Because-
Yeah, Ken sent it at the end of last
I
week.
have it right here.
And I will look, and the check, our check, et cetera, is still there.
Right, thank you. Can you pass these?
Oh, here it is.
Here, Michelle, this
Oh,
is
we have an
easier.
actual copy. Okay.
Thank you.
I do so much on my phone, I just,
I can't do it. It's
No?
too hard to see. I'm old school.
So you sent me something this afternoon, Michelle?
yeah, I think it was around 5:36, because I
Oh,
had just
I-
gotten something from Michael Bruno.
Yep, here it is. Email from Michael Bruno.
It's sort of along this, maybe not even as much detail as Carl's, because he's just came up with a new plan.
I think I'm gonna take a bathroom break.
Okay.
Here, let me push this in, you can.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, I'm gonna go out this way then. Oh, no, it's easier to go out that way.
Here, I'm gonna go get some more water anyway. You know, Marissa might have the contact information for Westar, the contractor that did the ADA stuff. The company is Westar,
A Westar.
yeah, in Middletown. Maybe I can search for it.
So Michael's just giving us a heads up of what's coming. He doesn't have anything concrete yet, right?
Well, that's kind of the same as Carl's.
I think Carl's is a little,
Well, I know, Carl's is definitely more.
he's a little further along.
Have you guys had a chance to review this? I don't see
Ah, here it is. I can forward it to you, Benny.
our application with the checklist. Does anybody have a copy of that? To make sure that says it's a complete.
There's no,
Well, this is the
Fine.
beginning of the
No.
application. It's not everything, however. Right? It's just the first couple pages.
I'm sorry?
Tuxedo history at Gmail.
History?
Tuxedo history at gmail.com.
I was given a spelling that doesn't look right. I'm gonna give you what I think it should be.
Yeah, the phone number.
Oh, okay. 845-283-2600. His name is Bill Reagan. So I'm assuming it's Reagan. And that's his cell. And the company is Westar. Now, I don't know if he does historical stuff. I just know he does ADA stuff.
That truly is one of our main concerns, is maintaining.
I need to suggest what we have right now, and I'd like to have Carl address the board.
Okay.
Where's the finance?
There isn't any. It's not.
So Carl, good evening. Thank you for your patience. As you can see, we're trying to do our best to move this forward.
I didn't.
The board has in front of them the
Oh, we didn't get this initially. Now we do, so he subsequently did send?
That was sent with his original submission. However, there was a big blank space on the email. And I didn't even scroll down in the beginning, but for some reason I did, and there it was.
Oh,
Okay? I don't know why there was that gap in there.
okay, all right.
What didn't you see in the email?
No,
The estimate.
I only
Oh, I
got,
saw that,
I only got these first 3 pages. I didn't get the rest.
but I don't see the finance page,
Okay.
like the,
Right, it's not part of the app, it's just 2 of the pages of the application.
Okay.
That's-
Got it.
why is that?
Can Carl answer that?
No.
Where's the rest of the?
Yeah,
I handed the entire application in. I didn't email it, I handed it in.
Yeah, I'm just seeing the.
Your financing is missing.
Well, it's not missing, I handed financing in also.
It's not here.
So Carl, why don't you tell us a little bit about your vision for the building?
All right, so, the background of me and my company is in the application, so I'm not gonna bore you with that, plus I don't have it in front of me since I'm driving. But, I'll give you a quick little background. The town, Tuxedo means a lot to me and my family. I ran a manufacturing and assembly business out of that building, employing Tuxedo residents for over 30 years. In the last 10 years, I've only been using it as a warehouse. So it's always been my belief that Tuxedo deserves a facelift. And I realize that my building is the focal point of the hamlet. That's why when there was grant money available years ago, I applied. I never received funds, but that's a whole different story. My desire now is to do more than just make the outside of the my desire now is to make more than just a warehouse look pretty. I would want it to restore the building to its original retail form. So my hope is that, once completed, this building will attract business to Tuxedo, jumpstart future developments and job opportunities, frankly. It's my opinion that the residents of Tuxedo, the transients who come through, tourists, and especially those people who are interested in Tuxedo Farms are going to want to see a vibrant, pedestrian-friendly town. And my hope is that the restoration of the building can be the start of the revitalization and economic development of the Tuxedo hamlet. That's basically my whole shtick.
Well, obviously you sat through our first applicant's review and the commitment of this board to work with applicants, but also to be consistent in how we respond to our applicants. I know you and I have had at least the conversation about financing and some of the challenges that you've expressed. So can you tell the board a little bit about what your hopes are with that?
Well, I proposed Listen, if I told this many times before, but if I was financially able to restore the building myself, I would have done it years ago. But that's just not the case. I am willing to contribute $50,000 to the $200,000 estimate that I have here. That was my proposal.
I don't see that.
That would mean we could top out at 25,000. 50% of what he is willing to spend.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
We're matching.
We would match, obviously, 50-50. So our match would be 50.
Oh, of the total, okay, all right. I stand corrected,
I have a question. When you say original retail form, were there storefronts on
Yeah,
the
so-
Route
so if you-
17 side?
Yeah, sure. So if you take a look at the outside of the building, you could see that there was all windows originally in that building on the bottom, like 9 windows right there. And many years ago, it was all bricked up. So that's why it looks like a warehouse right now. So when we're talking about original retail form, if you talk to anybody who's been interested in starting a business in that building, and there's been countless, they pretty much all, wanted to see the same thing. When I say retail form, is putting the windows back. That's it. Making it look like a storefront versus a warehouse.
When it was originally a retail, was the entrance always on the side the way it
Yes,
is
ma'am.
now?
Yeah,
Okay.
nothing's changed.
When it was retail, what kind of retail was it? I'm just
Well,
curious.
So this is a little before my time, right? So like I've only owned it for 40 years. When I bought it, it was a warehouse. I'm sorry, it was a hardware store. So I don't know who originally put the bricks in, but it might have been somewhere on the hardware, between the hardware store and the time that I bought it, someone must have put the bricks in.
Oh, Carlin, it's, the off-white building? Yeah.
So obviously, the scope of the work proposed here, Carl, comes to $209,000. I know you're hoping that this board would consider something beyond a 50-50, excuse me, a matching grant. You've stated that currently you could invest $50,000. If it were the decision of this board to match that, would you consider submitting a proposal at that $100,000 range that would possibly, basically prioritize what you could do with that amount of money?
Yeah, unfortunately not, Ken. So I've been through this thing many times. So please understand if I feel a little short, it's because I've been doing this for years. This is my 3rd application. So I've gone through a lot of detail in order to get this building restored. My last proposal was what I said to the contractor was I basically just want the absolute bare minimum of what needs to be done to make this improve the facade. That is it, and to make it retail visual, if you will, because I'm not talking anything about the inside. We're only talking about the outside. So this building, what it requires is scaffolding to do this job. Scaffolding is the big money for this job, because you have to do all the protection with possible pedestrian blocks, because you were right on the road. So that's the big money factor for this job. The 200,000 is like the bare minimum to get this building to look like we all want it to look. And to do anything less than that, it wouldn't make any sense, because you'd have to go back and do it again. It would be just a half-assed job, and it wouldn't pay.
You have one bid?
Yes, I
Are
do.
you planning to get another bid?
Absolutely not. So I have Dolbaum who did the bid. He's done this bid 3 times for me, as I said, because it's my 3rd application. he is somebody that obviously I trust. He's somebody that obviously you guys trust because he works for you. And
Who works for us?
Dolbaum,
His father.
His father?
right? His father Chris Dolbaum is the one who did the quote, but Rob Dolbaum is a contractor for this.
Rob Dobell would be the
The
contractor?
contractor?
From my
Yeah,
perspective, that's all the more reason to get another bid from somebody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like a conflict of interest.
Plus, I mean, we just required the Historical Society to get a second bid.
Yeah, definitely.
And we can't sit here and say one's
No.
okay. We can't.
Listen,
do
if you want another bid, that's fine. I have no issues. But
A different contractor.
Contractor, yeah.
Different contractor.
yeah, that's fine.
Also, you said that you did email the financing and we don't have it in the packet, so where is your financing coming from?
Okay, so I never emailed it. I handed it in personally. Okay, so I never emailed, it, but when I get back to the office, I'll gladly email it to you guys.
Well, basically what Carl's saying though is he's willing to finance $50,000.
Himself?
Yeah.
Okay. It wasn't clear to me.
No, okay, I'm trying to make it clear.
So then
I will just let the board know, there's no obligation to make a decision on this or any other application tonight. That I know a lot of board members for some reason didn't get the complete application, so this is an initial look at it, and same idea with the Historical Society. You can make an ultimate decision at your subsequent meeting.
well, again, I don't think the delay to getting a second bid is going to really delay anything, because this project would have to come before the Architectural Review Board, which our next meeting is March 7th. So that gives you time, Carl, to get that different or second proposal. And I would like to see now what's the reduced scope. The scope is not the same as the $200,000 estimate. It's roughly
I think
half.
he was stating he wouldn't even want to proceed with anything
correct.
else.
But he's willing to do 50,000, another 50, 100,000. So that's a reduced scope
Right.
from that original estimate,
Exactly.
right? So what
Is
is
it-
what are you not going to do that was in the original proposal?
Right.
I plan on doing, I want to do the entire 200. I'm saying that I can contribute 50, you guys contribute 150.
We can't do that. We can't contribute 150.
Right.
It's fine then.
But are you willing to spend,
100,000 to
Oh,
do
no,
something?
No, you're missing the point. You can't spend I've been through this. You can't spend 100,000. What are you gonna actually decide to do when you set up all this scaffolding? You're just gonna do half of it and then take it all down again? And
You could paint the building.
okay, that's it. We're talking about just painting the building, and
well,
Well, you could do something.
that's the whole revitalization of Tuxedo. That is what's going to get retail business in here and bring development back to the town. I thought that's what we were trying to do.
you're right, but our charter, we can't give you 3 times what you're putting in. We can't do that, can we? I don't
No.
think we can.
No.
Rachel, we can't do that, can we?
It's up to the board. I don't think in the guidelines you required a 50-50 match.
I thought we did.
I thought we did.
And I would go forward if you didn't.
Everybody else is gonna want more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I also have a little history here. Again, I have submitted 2 applications prior. My applications got ignored years ago when I know it wasn't under your jurisdiction or anything, but when all the money, grant money was given away and nobody paid a penny. And I've been here for 40 years employing people in Tuxedo, and I never got a penny. And so I think my situation is a little different than somebody who's applying for the first time.
There's a lady in the audience that had a question.
It's more of a comment. So a couple of things. I mean, you made a very big point of explaining how the Historical Society was, and I'm not saying you're not, a special case, and you really wanted to approve it, and you wanted to, be flexible. Now, Carl has, again, like he said, he's applied several times before, got nothing. I mean, I'm not sure that you can really expect a fourth application. This is a fantastic building in town. He also has to put in, something other than cash in order to make this happen. So I'm not sure if you can consider the fact that he has to now remove all of his inventory from this building, which he's using. I mean, he's gonna have to pay $15 a square foot somewhere else to store that stuff. He's
Why?
gotta pay-
Why does he
Where's
have,
he gonna put it?
why does he's not doing any internal work.
No, this, it's my warehouse.
In order to probably do this work with the windows, and in order to get a business in there, he's gonna have to stop using it. He's gotta use his employees, he's gotta ship that stuff somewhere else, and warehouse is hard to find these days.
Are you
So-
working with Carl?
I work with Carl on some things in the past, and, you know, I'm familiar with this application and this building.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, but could we have your name,
Oh, I'm
please?
sorry, that's right, Scott.
Are you Jay Reichscott's relation?
Spouse?
Like, yes.
Okay.
So that's just the point I wanted to make, that, I mean, it's clearly the LDC has the ability to be flexible and make different decisions on the percentage, and I really think that you should consider his costs other than the cash.
Could I make a suggestion here?
Sure.
I think that, and I don't even know if it's possible. Could we go into an executive session and kind of figure out where we're at with the guidelines we've adopted, the requirements we're asking the Historical Society to follow? And yeah, I just feel like all of a sudden I'm out at sea and I don't even know what we're supposed to be doing.
What would be the reason for the executive session?
Just to clarify the guidelines that we've adopted, and I'm just I'm a little at sea here.
From what I heard from you, Rachel, obviously, we've set guidelines, and we're trying to do matching funds.
Right.
That was a decision that this board made and amended our bylaws. We did leave discretion, that is true, and I think you mentioned that just a moment ago, Rachel. And I think it's up to the board to give feedback to applicants. I mean, we're trying to be consistent, and as was mentioned earlier, to the Historical Society, we said we were looking in our bid applications for 2 submissions of estimates, and so we kicked it back to the Historical Society to come back with the second one.
And here we are again.
Yeah, so I
With
think
one
we're trying
bid.
to advise
It's
Carl
not
how
right.
to move this forward.
Yeah.
Is executive session for advice of counsel legitimate?
We can do that.
Okay, so we could,
I mean, does that make sense to
actually,
anybody
it
else?
does make sense.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
we want to
Yeah.
be clear, and we're trying to be helpful to the applicants, but we got to also,
Yeah, we gotta know
yeah.
the guidelines and the guardrails and.
So I'll make a motion that we pause and go into an attorney counsel, and I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay,
I'm fine.
Aye.
all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
So, Rachel, I'll call you. I have your cell phone. Should I use that?
Well, I want Julie to participate as well.
I could,
So if we could stay in this room and have the public leave, and we can have, Julie can limit the individuals to this room.
actually, I'm controlling the,
Oh, you're controlling the Zoom.
It's
Oh,
the
I'm
town,
sorry.
it's the town's portal.
I think I'd be a little bit more secure if I just called you two. Or you call my cell phone, that would be fine.
Actually, Ken, go ahead and call, my cell phone and then I'll get Julie, I'll call Julie and we'll do
Okay,
it.
that sounds good.
Just let me make sure I have that.
And you're gonna have to mute your town link.
Yeah, I'm mute
We'll go in the other room,
everything, yeah.
right?
Okay.
Don't we want to go in the other room? Can we go in the plant, the
Yeah,
building
we can go in the
department?
building department.
Okay.
Okay, I'll call you in a moment. No, thank you, though.
You don't need,
No, we have enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I'd like to reopen the Tuxedo LDC meeting at 9:15. So we had a council with our attorney. Carl, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we want to give you some feedback. First of all, we wanted to start out, we absolutely recognize the importance of your building in this Route 17 corridor, and we do understand your frustrations with previous applications. As you know, obviously, we had nothing to do with that, but we want to try to give you a pathway forward. As a part of our application process, we do expect two bids, and that would be a requirement. We'd encourage you to consider a higher level of financing for this project, or consider reducing the scope to match what. So we just like you to reconsider that. And in any of this process, you'd have to go before the planning board. That's a necessary step anyway. And that's also a reason why we have a planning board member as part of this board. I want to just also let my colleagues, John, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Well, he wouldn't need planning board approval, he'd need architectural review board approval, which
Okay,
is the
thank
same board. It's the same people. You're not expanding the building, so it's only architectural review board. What color paint are you putting on it? And I'm sure it would be appropriate, but it's something that we have to review, and I don't see any issue with approving that ultimately.
Okay, when would the date for that be?
Well, our next planning board meeting is March 7th, three weeks from tonight. No, 3 weeks from last night. 3 weeks from last night. And we can get you on that agenda if you know what you want to do. As far as, we're very specific on the paint color. You know, what's the color? Who's the manufacturer of the paint? That's really all we want to know. A rendering would be nice. Not essential, it would be nice.
Okay.
Anything else?
Well, I'd like to say that it's a lovely building. It stands out. It's important to Tuxedo. But we also have application guidelines, grant guidelines. It would be nice if you could reach a different level of finance with us for matching funds. I think it's pretty clear that it's matching funds.
We have some flexibility in that, but this is our first applications being received, and we have to balance it based on others that come in.
And I think like our comments are just meant to help you be able to submit a stronger application.
And Carl, I'm not a contractor, I'm not an expert in this, but I would question the need for scaffolding. It's a 2-story building. I don't see why they couldn't rent a lift, a hydraulic lift, and use it instead of building scaffolding. That's just my opinion of a non-expert, but I think that's maybe something that you should look into with both contractors, Mr. Dolbaum, whoever you're going to choose for the second one, and question it. Why scaffolding?
Well, I think it was more of the safety issue was the big concern, but I will address it again.
Okay, thank you.
And Rachel, is there anything you could add to what we're saying here to help, that might help the applicant, or at least help the board, both of us?
I think you summarized it well, Ken. I really don't have anything additional to add.
Thank you. That's fine. Carl, again, we do want to work with you, and hopefully this feedback is helpful. And we're considering your applications open, and absolutely welcome to come back and follow some of these suggestions for moving forward, and look forward to hearing more.
And Carl, talk to Deborah in the building department, and if you can be ready, get yourself on the agenda for March 7th.
Okay. All right, I'll make sure I do that. All right, well, listen, guys, I appreciate everything. I am sitting outside of my hotel right here. I got to check in because I have a meeting tomorrow. So
Okay, sir.
I had no idea this is going to be 3 hours long. So,
I understand.
okay.
Thank you. We apologize.
No problem. Thank you for considering it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
All right, bye-bye.
So,
You want me to read this email from Michael? Are we-
sure, why not?
Okay, so are we ready to move on to the next? Or
We
no?
don't have any other applications.
Right, but I guess Michael Bruno had sent an email this afternoon to myself and Ken. I guess, I don't know if he's traveling and didn't have access to whatever. So he says, much thought has gone into the possibilities for the properties I own in town since our last meeting. I am thinking of ways that we can use them to help bring life to our special little hamlet. I have been talking to some folks that could be interested in taking on the Junction to make a really nice restaurant. The chef is fantastic and has a place nearby, but he is looking to move to expand. We also discussed opening a food hall in the former IGA space. The chef helped open the Todd English Food Hall at the Plaza Hotel in New York City.
Wow.
He and his partner bring the experience and desire to make something special happen. We are in early stages of making a plan. A crucial part of making this happen would be based on our ability to secure funding from the town. I hope to have more concrete news before your next meeting. Please feel free to contact me with any questions. So obviously, our only response would be, we need the application. Right?
One thing about
Any-
Carl's project, he said a very large component is the scaffolding. Well, I'm looking at the estimate of 209,000 total. The scaffolding is $19,000. So that's, and they break it
10%.
down by, it's less than, it's
Less than
9.2%.
yeah.
So that's not a major component. I don't know where he was coming from regarding that, but.
So,
Do we want to give Michael any feedback except for just saying,
I need to
we
put in
look
an
forward to
application, that's
hearing?
it.
Yeah,
Encourage him to put in an
It
application.
sounds promising,
That's all.
put in the application. It
Yeah.
sounds very promising.
yeah, especially have the Junction back as a restaurant.
And anybody with the last name English has got to be listening to it.
There is an issue with the junction. That's
Yes.
happening behind it, you know that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I prefer not to discuss that
Yeah.
as part of this meeting.
There is some-
So I'm ready to adjourn. So
Second.
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 9:23. John has already seconded. Do I have a second, John?
Absolutely.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
And Sue Cher, thank you for participating and listening. We're trying our best to move Tuxedo forward. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for hanging with us, guys.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.